In this episode, we talk about 3 men being gunned down by the police, 2 of whom were allegedly behind the Burger King shooting in the capital last month. We also talk about the Pakistan government's decision to ban the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, the party led by jailed former Prime Minister Imran Khan. But first, we talk about PM Modi's visit to Austria. Hi, I am Niharika Nanda, and you are listening to 3 Things, the Indian Express news show. Followed by his visit to Russia, where he met President Vladimir Putin, PM Modi travelled to Austria last week. He is the first Indian Prime Minister to visit the country after Indira Gandhi in 1983. PM Modi met Austrian Chancellor Karl Nehammer in Vienna, where they discussed bilateral relations between the two nations and reminisced how Indian leaders have supported Austria in difficult situations. To understand why the Prime Minister's visit to Austria post his visit to Russia is so significant, what message was sent out by his speeches, and India's ties with Austria, we have Indian Express's Diplomatic Affairs editor Shubhajit Roy joining us. Shubhajit, can you begin by telling us why is PM Modi's visit to Austria significant, especially after his visit to Russia?
The Prime Minister visited Austria just after his Russia leg. And firstly, as a bilateral visit, it was the first time after 41 years that an Indian Prime Minister had gone to Austria. Last time such a visit took place was when Indira Gandhi was the Prime Minister in 1983. When she had last gone to Vienna. So after that, after 41 years, there was a visit. That was the first important thing. Secondly, after this Russia visit, which was sort of a very tough visit, and it was a visit where India had sort of gone to Russia after 5 years. And also the Prime Minister had gone for the first time after the Russia-Ukraine war had started. So as a result, this particular visit was very closely watched by the international community. So India has had to do a bit of balancing act, and that's why India chose Austria. After visiting Russia, Austria is seen as a neutral country. It is not a member of NATO, so the Austrian leader was available in Europe because at the same time, from the 9th to 11th of July, the NATO leaders, 32 leaders of NATO countries, were meeting in Washington, D.C., which was being hosted by US President Joe Biden. So it was a non-NATO country, European country, a Western country, and a neutral country. All these check the boxes for a visit just after the Russian leg.
And what message was sent out by his speeches in Moscow and Vienna, keeping in mind that a suspected Russian missile attack was carried out on a children's hospital in Kyiv when the Prime Minister was in Russia?
Well, Prime Minister, since he visited Russia for the first time since the Russia-Ukraine war started, so there was an expectation that he would sort of take up the issue of the war, and that obviously dominated the conversation between the Indian Prime Minister and the Russian President, where, he obviously reiterated the statement that he had made about 2 years ago in September 2022 in Samarkand, in Uzbekistan, when he had told President Putin that this is not the era of war. So he once again reiterated that statement that this is not the era of war, this is not the time for war. But he also added that solutions can't be found on the battlefield, which was a new framing, new language that the Indian Prime Minister articulated during his Russia visit. And also because this particular visit was happening just within hours of Russian attack on a children's hospital in Ukraine. And he said that, when innocent children die, it causes immense pain. It's very painful and heart explodes if such incidents happen. And that was a very strong message to Russia by the Indian Prime Minister during the visit. After that, when he went to Vienna, he continued with the same messaging, but he sort of added one line when he was in Vienna that the killing of innocent children was unacceptable. So all in all, it sent a message to both Putin and also to the West that, he sent a signal that he was indeed taking up the issues of abjuring violence and stopping the war in his comments with the Russian president. So that was the sort of message that he tried to send out in his statements, both in Moscow and in Vienna.
And Shubhajit, why is Austria seen as a neutral country?
Well, Austria was under Nazi occupation during Second World War, and after the end of the war, it was divided into four sectors by the US, UK, France, and the Soviet Union, the victorious powers, which is supervised by the Allied Commission. So the Allies occupied Austria for a decade after the war ended. So essentially from 1945 to 1955, Vienna was under Nazi occupation. In 1955, the four occupying powers signed what is called the Austrian State Treaty with the Austrian government to establish Austria as an independent state. So from that time onwards, because Austria, which is strategically located between the capitalist Western Europe and the communist bloc in the east of the continent, has maintained sort of neutrality on the model of Switzerland, with the four powers pledging to the integrity and inviolability of the Austrian territory. The 1955 treaty, which was ratified by all these countries, thus bound Austria to neutrality. So essentially, the Constitution of Austria prohibits entering them into military alliances and establishment of foreign military bases on Austrian territory.
Right. And what was former Prime Minister Nehru's role as far as Austria is concerned? We know that Chancellor Nehammer recalled a certain situation while talking to PM Modi that was difficult for Austria, and it was then that Foreign Minister Gruber contacted Prime Minister Nehru asking for support.
Well, what happened was in 1952-53, the Austrians approached Jawaharlal Nehru, the first Indian Prime Minister, and one who was respected by both the Western nations and the Soviets for help in securing sovereign nation. Now, India was among the few countries that had supported Austria's appeal at the United Nations General Assembly in 1952 for an end to the Allied occupation and the restoration of its sovereignty. So at that point in time, the Austrian Foreign Minister Karl Gruber met Nehru in 1953 while attending the coronation of Elizabeth II in London. And Nehru was seen as a diplomatic mediator, and he convinced the Soviet Union as well as spoke to the Western nations which led to the Austrian state treaty. In fact, in June 1955, about a month after Austria had gained full independence through the conclusion of the state treaty, Nehru paid a state visit to the country, the first by a foreign leader. So Austrians, in fact, are very grateful about this particular role played by the Indian Prime Minister back then.
And post the support being provided by former PM Nehru, what kind of relations existed between India and Austria over the years?
The two countries are sort of marking their 75th anniversary this year, since they had established their diplomatic relations on November 10th, 1949. And there have been visits. As I said, Indira Gandhi visited in 1983. The Austrian Chancellor then came to India on a reciprocal visit in 1984. President K.R. Narayanan, he went to Austria on a state visit in November 1999. And Austrian President Heinz Fischer came in February 2005. And Indian President Pratibha Patil also visited in 2011. So there's been sort of a very strong bilateral connection, although high-level bilateral visit at the level of Prime Minister didn't take place for 4 decades. But, what happened was in the last few years, in the last couple of years, actually things started moving forward with Austrian Foreign Minister Alexander Schallenberg, who has an interesting connection with India. In fact, when he visited with a high-level business delegation in March 2022, it became known that his father, Wolfgang Schallenberg, was Austrian ambassador to India between 1974 and 1978. And the current foreign minister, who was just 5 years old at that point of time, he attended elementary school in Delhi. So he has very pleasant memories from that time. And he recalled his sort of journey from there with his conversations with External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar. And in fact, Alexander Schallenberg, he followed in his father's footsteps to join the Austrian Foreign Service. He became a diplomat and then later became the foreign minister of the country in 2019. In fact, he became the chancellor of the country of Austria for 3 months in 2021 when a leadership change happened. And then again, he's back to being a foreign minister since 2021. So, there was a lot of similarities between Jaishankar and Schallenberg, who's the Austrian foreign minister. Both have been diplomats, then both became foreign ministers. Both are sons of illustrious fathers. So both sort of got along very well. And that's instant rapport that they developed, that catapulted this relationship on a fast track. And that's how now in the last couple of years, the migration mobility agreement or the startup ecosystem, there has been really much more development and progress in ties than before.
And Shubhajit, how do we see the bilateral relations growing between the two nations post PM Modi's visit?
Well, Chancellor Nehammer and Prime Minister Modi, they recognize the potential to significantly upgrade the bilateral partnership to a higher level. So, in addition to a closer political level dialogue, the two leaders emphasized a future-oriented bilateral sustainable economic and technology partnership. Now, Austria offers tremendous opportunities for bilateral collaboration in infrastructure, renewable energy, e-commerce, fintech, enterprise tech, consumer services, media, and entertainment. In fact, both countries have taken balanced positions in the Russia-Ukraine war. So even though Austria supported the EU's sanctions against Russia in April 2022, Chancellor Nehammer became the first European leader to visit President Putin to discuss the end of the war. Austria has publicly criticized Russian actions in Ukraine, but their commercial ties between the two countries have remained largely intact, and it continues to import gas from Russia. So there's a lot of scope between India and Austria in, say, the migration and mobility agreement and in innovation, in startups, green economy, green energy. So these are the areas where the two countries are likely to collaborate and cooperate in years to come.
And next we talk about the Burger King shooting. On 12th July, the Haryana Police Special Task Force and the Delhi Police Crime Branch in a joint operation gunned down 3 men, 2 of whom were accused of being involved in the Burger King shooting incident that took place in the capital last month. The shooting that took place at a Burger King outlet in West Delhi was a part of a conflict between two gangs, one of which planned the murder of the victim who was shot dead at the fast food joint. A month after the incident, the police finally reached the accused in Kharkhoda in Haryana's Sonipat district, where the two parties got involved in a crossfire which led to a sub-inspector getting injured and 3 men getting killed. To learn what happened at the Burger King outlet and how the police reached the alleged shooters, we have Indian Express's Arnabjit Sur joining us. Arnabjit, can you begin by telling us what happened at the Burger King outlet in the capital on June 18?
So basically, at around 9:45 p.m. on that day, a shootout took place where this guy called Aman June, he was the deceased in this case. He was shot dead by 2 persons who had entered after him. So he was talking to one of the women, like she's also the accused. These 3 are the accused, 2 guys and 1 woman. Woman was sort of a honey trap. She was talking to him. She had already come there previously, like a few minutes back before Aman June entered. They were talking. They had known each other for a few months. When they began talking, like after 5 or 10 minutes, these 2 guys entered. They ordered something. The order came and they suddenly started shooting with their country-made pistols and shot around 35 to 40 bullets, few of which hit Aman June and few of which missed. And basically there's a video and all where he's being chased to the counter and they're then shooting him while he's on the floor also. So basically that's what happened. And after the incident, both the woman and these 2 accused fled in different directions. These 2 accused ran through their bikes and the woman went on foot and then took the metro and then left somewhere.
And were the accused identified? Who were they?
Yeah, so they were basically gang members of Himanshu Bhau. They were identified around 1 or 2 days later. They were Ashish and Vicky. Ashish alias Lalu and Vicky Ridana. Both of them are 23 years old. So basically there was this whole Aman June was part of a rival gang. So Himanshu Bhau had put up an Instagram post claiming responsibility for the incident, saying that one of his gang members was killed by a person related to Aman Joon, even though Aman Joon had left the whole gang scene and he was not into any rivalries and all. But like he was sort of associated with one of prominent rival gangs of Himanshu Bhau, who is currently in Portugal, and like Interpol and all have issued notices against him. He has a lot of cases in Delhi and Haryana. So basically, that's that. That is why the whole plot was conspired, where this woman, whose name is Anu, she was made as a honey trap to sort of speak to Aman Joon, befriend him through social media. They went out on a few dates and all, and then eventually when she called him to Burger King, the main motive was to get him killed by these two persons who were part of Himanshu Bhau's gang. They were basically desperate shooters, and the woman was sort of really close to Himanshu Bhau. So she was specifically asked to sort of get this task done.
And Arnabjit, can you tell us more about this person that you just mentioned, Himanshu Bhau, whose gang these three people belong to?
Basically, Himanshu Bhau, now he's very prevalent in Delhi. Mostly he has cases in Haryana. Mostly extortion related to from property dealers and car showroom owners. Yeah, so that's his crime, like sort of the subcategory under which he does all these criminal activities. And recently also he has shifted to West Delhi, where this Burger King incident happened in Rajouri Garden. So he has around more than half a dozen cases, a little more than half a dozen cases right now lodged in West Delhi itself. Two of his gang members were also involved in an extortion cum shooting incident around 1 or 2 months back before Burger King, where they sort of shot at the glass pane of this Fusion car showroom, where a lot of people got injuries due to the glass shards and all. So that was also an extortion attempt by Himanshu Bhau, Naveen Bali gang. Naveen Bali is his jailed associate. So basically they extort, sort of they shoot and then they leave a note saying that we need 1 crore, we need 5 crores from you, or else we'll which is the reason we carried out the shooting.
So what we understand is that these three accused have been gunned down by the police last week. Can you tell us what happened?
So like out of these three, Ashish, Sunny and Vicky, who were gunned down, Sunny was involved in the killing of a businessman outside Murthal Dhaba, and he also has a lot of extortion cases lodged against him in Haryana mostly. So he is not prevalent in Delhi. Ashish and Vicky, the Burger King incident was their first in Delhi. So basically, after the Burger King incident, one of the spotters, Bijender, was arrested by the Delhi police. Spotters are mostly there to sort of assist the main shooters. They're out there sort of guarding, seeing if nobody's coming, and like he's on the bike so that he's just ready to sort of rev and then leave once the killing has happened. So Bijender during his interrogation said that Ashish and Vicky were also involved. So Delhi Police Crime Branch, they were on the tail of these two for a long time. And when the encounter happened, around 4 p.m. they received a tip-off that 3 men, 2 of whom are the Burger King suspects, are going towards Gohana in Haryana to sort of an extortion bid come killing. So they got a tip-off and around 40 officers of the Delhi Police Crime Branch's New Delhi range team left in their vehicles, including the DCP Crime Branch, Amit Goyal. They sort of laid a trap. When they saw the police, these 3 people detoured into a muddy path, sort of a jungle-like area, which was deserted. This was around 7:38, I would say. First, these guys started firing. Police asked them to sort of surrender because that's the first thing they do before taking up arms. They asked them to surrender, but then they got out. First, they sort of pulled down the windows and one of them started firing from his pistol and the rest of them also started firing. Technically, 5 guns were recovered from their vehicle, apart from the 3 that they were holding. The crossfire happened. These guys fired around 25 to 30 bullets towards the police, but then police in the crossfire as self-defense, they shot back and all these 3 were shot down and they received injuries mostly on their chest and neck.
You also had the opportunity of talking to some police officers. What did they have to say about what happened, and were any police officers injured in the shooting?
Like the officers said that they had been on these guys' tails for more than a month and they were taking out all inputs and all because this was a big case and arresting the spotter was just the tip of the iceberg because these were the main shooters and they were absconding for more than a month. The district police was not able to arrest them. The woman has also been spotted several times, one in Jammu and Kashmir once, and a lot of officers have told me that she's technically gone off the radar completely. So it was very important for the Delhi police as a whole to sort of get these 2 people, and And once they got the tip off, all the officers, like the whole NDR unit, drove their vehicles towards Haryana. And this was done with the help of Sonipat STF as well, because you have to inform them that we are coming to your area, so to sort of carry out an operation. But yeah, the officers told me that the first thing was obviously to sort of ask them to surrender, because they were identified, all their call detail records were also tracked, that basically whenever they're making a call, their locations are being tracked, a map is being made. So they knew that these three were the persons, like at least these two were the persons who were the Burger King shooters. They had all the details, and it's just that these guys fired back, and that's why the police had to make the step and like sort of shoot back. And most of them were wearing jackets and all, bulletproof jackets. Two people were hit. The DCP was in the front. He was hit on his bulletproof jacket, but he didn't get injured. One of the sub-inspectors, Amit Kumar, I think, he received injuries in one of his legs, a bullet injury, but it was minor. So like he recovered in the hospital later.
Right. And what happened when the suspects were taken to the Kharkhoda Civil Hospital in Sonipat?
They were declared dead there. Like all the officers, like when I spoke to them, it was around late night. They were like by around 9 or 10 p.m. most. All the officers were in the mortuary only because like technically during the nights, the postmortems are not carried out. It's mostly carried out during the day. So the next day, the postmortem was carried out and the families and all were involved. But once they were taken to the hospital, they were declared dead because like there were multiple bullet injuries on their chest and neck. So there was no chances of them surviving.
And Arnabjit, you write that these three men were wanted by the Delhi and the Haryana police. So what charges were filed against them?
So all of them have around half a dozen to sort of 6 to 12 cases at least as part of their dossier, where they're mostly involved in Haryana extortion bids, like one in Hisar, as I mentioned, one in the Murthal Dhaba killing. And most of them are sort of heinous offenses, murder, attempt to murder, extortion bids under the Arms Act. So they already have a lot of cases lodged against them in Haryana. And a case is also lodged when a person is killed in an encounter as part of the crossfire. So that is also has been lodged in Sonipat. The Burger King incident, it's not with the crime branch, it's with the district police, the West District Police. So these two persons have already been charged under that, under murder sections. So that's a separate case, but were wanted in a lot of cases in Haryana by the Haryana STF. Now they are dead. So like those cases are mostly like it doesn't make sense to proceed. So like it gets resolved in court. But most of them are Haryana based and they had already been charged under that. The Burger King incident is a separate one and proceedings will be carried out in it separately. I mean, once technically there is only one accused that needs to be sort of nabbed right now, that is the woman. And so I think she will only be proceeded once she's arrested, if at all.
And in the end, we talk about Pakistani government's decision to ban former Prime Minister Imran Khan's party, PTI. Yesterday, the Pakistan government announced that it has decided to ban the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf party, led by jailed former Prime Minister Imran Khan. Information Minister Ataullah Tarar said that the federal government believes that there is substantial evidence to back its alleged involvement in anti-state activities. Earlier in the day, speaking at a press conference in Islamabad, Tarar revealed that the decision to ban PTI was based on the party's alleged involvement in a series of incidents deemed detrimental to the state. Tarar referenced several key issues, including the foreign funding case, the May 9 riots, the manipulation of the Cypher saga, where the former Pakistani ambassador to the US, Asad Majid, clarified that there was no threat involved, contrary to PTI's claims. Emphasizing the seriousness of the allegations, Tarar said that the federal government has decided that in view of all the evidence, they will move a case to ban the PTI.
The foreign funding established, 9 मई के हमले established, साइफर का केस established, अमेरिका में रेजोल्यूशन established, तो हुकूमत ने यह फैसला किया है, इन तमाम चीज़ों को देखते हुए, सबूतों को देखते हुए, वफाकी हुकूमत पीटीआई को बैन करने के लिए केस मूव करेगी. तहरीक-ए-इंसाफ पे पाबंदी लगाने जा रहे हैं.
The News International reported that the Supreme Court's recent judgment rendered the PTI eligible for seats reserved for women and minorities. This ruling positions Khan's party to potentially become the single largest party in the National Assembly, while the current ruling coalition could lose its two-thirds majority. Responding to the ban, the PTI took to social media platform X and urged the government to not shake the foundations of Pakistan. It also castigated Pakistan's Chief of Army Staff, General Asim Munir, and his puppet government. The post read, quote, General Asim Munir and his puppet government's mood is increasing after the process of returning the public mandate of Tehreek-e-Insaf, which was given on February 8, after which they started daydreaming about banning Tehreek-e-Insaf. General Asim Munir, take care and do not shake the foundations of Pakistan by stopping playing with the constitution anymore. Unquote. The post added that no patriot can ever think of banning the largest and the most popular party of Pakistan, and doing so would be equivalent to shaking the foundations of Pakistan and sending the country towards a civil war. You were listening to 3 Things by the Indian Express. Today's show was edited and mixed by Suresh Pawar and produced by me, Niharika Nanda. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone you think will like it. Share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can also tweet us at Express Audio and write to us at podcasts@indianexpress.com.